So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about a very special type of green tea that we offer at Integrative Wellness and Physical Therapy. It's a type of oolong green tea, and oolong means that it's partially fermented, but this type of green tea is actually very natural. We import this green tea specifically from a farm in the rainforests of Taiwan. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about how we acquired this green tea. So many years ago, probably close to 20 plus years ago, my older brother actually lived in Taiwan. He was going to university there, and he used to spend a lot of time wandering the island on his off time. And one of his very close friends was native Taiwanese and grew up on the island. And at one point, years ago, we had asked him to go and send us some samples of green tea to search some of the farms there. And so he and his friend, who's native Taiwanese, they traveled the farms in Taiwan and they packaged up samples from the different farmers. And they sent us a box of, gosh, probably 100 samples of green tea from all these various farms. And we went through our own brand of testing. We have a wellness center and we do a lot of body work. And so some of the techniques that we use for body work, we use to assess the benefits of the green tea on our client population. And we tried it ourselves and our community, our clients, our family, our friends. We just gave it out as bags of gifts to everyone we knew and had them try it. And over the course of a year, we went through all these different green teas and we picked one that we thought was really the most potent, most medicinal form of green tea out of all the samples. It wasn't the most expensive, it wasn't the least expensive, but it was by far the most powerful of the green teas that we tested. And we used it for a number of years and we saw wonderful benefits. And then a few years later, after we had initially started using this green tea, one of our dear friends from Israel was actually living in New Jersey for a year. Her husband was on sabbatical and was a plant pathologist and was working at Rutgers University. And at the time, what we didn't know is Rutgers had one of the premier green tea research centers in the country. And it's funny how coincidences work. So they came up to visit us and we gave them a bag of green tea as a gift. We said, hey, it's so good to see you. Here's a bag. And would you mind analyzing it in your lab? And our friend took the tea back to his lab at Rutgers and he tested it. And he tested it again and again and again. And he tested it 5 times and he kept testing it because he was so impressed with the findings. He discovered at the time that green tea that he tested that we had given him from this farm in Taiwan was 5 times more potent in phytophenols and antioxidants than any other green tea that they had researched in that lab, in the history of the lab. And so it was really pretty impressive. So we have the results of the test, which is wonderful, and we've been using this green tea for many years. And it's a loose leaf tea. So loose leaf means that it's not in a bag when you put it in the water. So if we show you, when you open up the bag and it's vacuum sealed, you have all these dried leaves. And what you do is you put them in hot water and you let it steep for 3 to 5 minutes. And then what you get are these leaves that open up to actually quite a large size. And as you let it steep, it makes the tea medicinal. Now, depending on the quality of the green tea determines how medicinal the tea is. But in this particular case, it's a very potent form of green tea, and so it becomes a very medicinal tea, which means that when you drink it, it has some really impressive health properties to it that can make you healthier. The standard recommended, let's say, drinking regimen for green tea that historically the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, had determined based on research was to drink in that first month 3 to 5 cups of green tea a day. And then after that first month, going down to a maintenance dose of 1 to 2 cups a day. Now, one of the common questions we get is green tea caffeinated? It is caffeinated. It's not as caffeinated as a cup of coffee, and it's also much more natural than what you find out there in coffee shops. So many of our very caffeine-sensitive clients actually do fine on the green tea. It has so many broad-ranging health benefits. But one of the most special aspects about it is it's anti-inflammatory. And as we've all heard in the news and research and everywhere, that we hear that inflammation is such an underlying reason for disease, for illness, for pain. So when you drink green tea with its anti-inflammatory properties, it helps to reduce inflammation in the body and helps to promote health of the gut. and helps to promote the health of the liver's ability to break down toxicity and promote drainage in the body. So it's a wonderful thing to drink. It helps with anxiety and stress management because it has a real calming effect. So definitely a good thing to end the day with and start the day with. And it's meant to be not, this particular type of green tea is meant not to be very dark, so you really don't need very much. If you use like a quarter teaspoon of the leaves, the dried leaves, in a cup of hot water and wait until they open, it should be a yellow tint to the water. It shouldn't be a very dark tea, and it shouldn't be very bitter. It's a very mild flavor. But what's also wonderful about this tea is because it's so medicinal, you can reuse the leaves all day, up to really a 24-hour period. You just want to make sure that they're kept in some amount of liquid to keep their moisture, and then they don't oxidize. And they continue to have their medicinal benefits for that 24-hour period. And then at the end of the day, you can discard them and start from scratch.